The roar of the grand ballroom suddenly faded when a strange sound echoed outside. Then it happened. A magnificent steam carriage came to a sharp halt before the palace steps. Its wheels hissed. Servants rushed to the entrance in confusion. Nobles near the windows gasped and turned. Inside the ballroom, whispers spread like fire. Whose carriage is that? No crest, no family colors. Who would dare interrupt the gala? Then the great doors burst open. Hundreds of heads turned at once. Glasses slipped from trembling hands and shattered across the marble floor. There, framed beneath the golden lights, stood the woman the Duke had been too ashamed to bring. Duchess Eleanor Ravenshire. Dressed in black silk and diamonds, eyes blazing with pain and power, she stepped inside like judgment itself. Every footstep struck the marble with calm authority. At the center of the ballroom, Duke Adrian still held the hand of the younger woman he had proudly chosen over his wife, but now his fingers slowly loosened. Color drained from his face. The mistress who had arrived smiling moments earlier was suddenly trembling. Whispers tore through the room. She came. She actually came. After what he did to her? Then Eleanor stopped before them both, reached into her glove, and drew out sealed papers that made bankers gasp and noblemen rise to their feet. The Duke staggered backwards, because in that instant he knew the wife he had humiliated in private was about to destroy him before all of London. But before we witness how one proud duke lost everything in a single night, please subscribe for more unforgettable royal dramas. Now let us return to the beginning, to the days when he called her the only light in England, before vanity poisoned his heart, before another woman entered his life, and before betrayal arrived dressed in silk. London, in the early years of Queen Victoria's reign, lived for rank, beauty, and spectacle. Carriages rolled through polished streets lined with gas lamps. Ladies glided through drawing rooms in silk, and every season brought fresh talk of fortunes, titles, and marriages. Among all the young noblemen of that glittering world, none drew more attention than Duke Adrian Ravenshire. He was tall, handsome, and carried himself with the easy confidence of a man who had never been denied anything. His family name was old, his townhouse in Mayfair grand, and his country estate spoken of with admiration. Mothers with unmarried daughters watched him closely whenever he entered a ballroom. It was expected that Adrian would marry a woman of dazzling beauty and great fortune. Instead, he chose Lady Eleanor Whitmore, daughter of a modest viscount whose family preferred country life to London display. She was not the loudest woman in a room, nor the most decorated, but when she spoke, people listened. She had calm grey eyes, gentle manners, and a quiet intelligence that made foolish people uneasy. She noticed servants by name, remembered small kindnesses, and never competed for attention. Many in society whispered that the Duke had made a sentimental mistake. Adrian seemed not to care. He adored her in a way that silenced mockery for a time. At dinners he pulled back her chair himself. At concerts he leaned close to explain the music. In Hyde Park they rode side by side in the mornings, laughing privately while others stared. Their wedding filled St. George's Church with flowers, polished silver, and guests eager to witness the season's most surprising match. London newspapers praised the romance. Even those who doubted Eleanor admitted the Duke looked happiest beside her. The first years of marriage were warm and busy. Ravenshire House, once formal and stiff, became lively. Fresh flowers appeared in every room. Music drifted from the blue drawing room in the evenings. Adrian returned home early more often than not. The long dining table, once used only for state dinners, now held family breakfasts of hot rolls, honey, eggs, smoked ham, and fruit brought in baskets from the country estate. Soon a son was born and named Henry. 2 years later came twin girls, Clara and Louisa. Their nursery filled with toys, tiny shoes, and the soft sounds of children learning the world. Eleanor gave herself completely to motherhood, but the birth of the twins was long and dangerous. Fever followed. For weeks the house moved in whispers. Doctors came and went with grave faces. When she finally recovered, she was thinner in some places, fuller in others, often tired and marked by the ordeal in ways hidden beneath expensive gowns. She still carried grace, but society noticed change before courage. Some ladies who once envied her now spoke with sharpened pity. At the same time, Adrian's father died, and with the title came ledgers no one had shown him before. The estates were burdened with hidden deaths, unpaid loans, and costly repairs. The grandeur remained, but the money beneath it was weakening. Pressure settled over Adrian like damp winter fog. He smiled in public, but privately he grew restless. He began hearing every whisper he once ignored. At a dinner held in their own home, candlelight flickering over crystal glasses and roast pheasant, a guest remarked that motherhood had altered the Duchess more than expected. Another woman gave a quiet laugh. Across the table, Eleanor lowered her eyes. Adrian heard every word. He said nothing. Once careless with money because he had never needed to think of it, he now lived under the weight of unpaid accounts, failing rents, and letters sealed with demands. Yet instead of cutting costs or accepting help, he clung harder to display. New coats arrived from tailors in Bond Street. 2 expensive horses were added to the stable. Fresh silver was ordered for dinners no one could truly afford. He hosted evenings of wine, oysters, pheasant, and music, so London would continue believing Ravenshire remained untouchable. Eleanor saw the danger clearly. She spent quiet mornings at the writing desk, studying household ledgers, trimming waste where she could. She dismissed unnecessary flower orders, reduced imported delicacies, and sold a pair of emerald earrings gifted to her at marriage. She suggested delaying repairs to the orangery and letting unused town rooms remain closed through winter. Every idea was practical, calm, and meant to protect their future. Adrian received each suggestion as a wound. He told himself a husband who took guidance from his wife looked weak. When guests came, he increasingly asked Eleanor to rest upstairs. He said crowded rooms tired her since the twins. He claimed the children needed her more than society did. At first she believed him. Later she understood he preferred being seen alone. If she entered a drawing room unexpectedly, conversations would pause just long enough for her to feel it. Adrian would smile tightly and ask if she should not be lying down. Business matters grew worse. One afternoon, as his solicitor discussed overdue loans in the library, Eleanor quietly pointed out a duplicate charge in the papers. She had noticed it at once. Adrian snapped before the man could reply. He said the matter did not concern nursery minds and told her to leave the room. The solicitor stared at the carpet while she walked out. Cruelty arrived in small daily cuts. At supper, when roast lamb, potatoes, and buttered carrots were set before them, Adrian watched her accept a second spoon of potatoes and remarked that country habits were hard to lose. Another evening, he laughed before visitors that motherhood had made his wife soft in more ways than one. Servants carrying dishes heard every word. Eleanor kept her posture straight, answered politely when spoken to, and never let tears appear before others. She endured for Henry, Clara, and Louisa. The deepest hurt came not from scandal, but from innocence. During breakfast, with porridge cooling in bowls and rain tapping against the windows, little Henry climbed onto his father's knee and asked why father no longer kissed mother good morning. Adrian stiffened, set the child down, and said boys must learn not to ask foolish questions. He left the room without touching either of them. Henry looked confused. Eleanor turned to the window so her son would not see her face. Around that time, London gained a new favorite in Miss Seraphina Vale. She was a young widow with bright laughter, daring gowns, and a talent for making men feel grander than they were. She praised Adrian's taste, admired his horses, and listened with delight to stories others had heard too often. Soon whispers spread through clubs and tea-rooms that the Duke was seen with Miss Vale more than with his Duchess. One cold evening, Eleanor stood behind the curtain of an upstairs nursery window, candlelight warm behind her where the children played. Outside, Adrian bent with careful charm to help Seraphina into his carriage. Then he climbed in beside her and drove away. Pain changed Eleanor, but it did not weaken her mind. After the children were asleep and the house fell quiet, she began spending long evenings in the small morning room beside the library, where a coal fire burned low and only one lamp was kept lit to save oil. There she opened estate ledgers Adrian no longer bothered to read, stacks of unpaid invoices, rent reports from tenants, and letters tied with ribbon from her late father's old business circle. What first seemed disorder soon revealed something worse. Ravenshire was not merely strained, it was bleeding. There were overdue loans hidden beneath new borrowing, repairs charged twice, wine bills fit for a prince, and unexplained withdrawals made through intermediaries. Adrian's constant need to appear prosperous had become ruinously expensive. If matters continued, Henry would inherit a title with little substance behind it. Clara and Louisa might receive nothing but polished silver and portraits of dead men. Eleanor sat for a long time with one hand resting on the papers. Anger came, then fear, then a steadier feeling stronger than both. She would not let her children be sacrificed to vanity. The next week she sold a velvet case of jewels she had not worn in months. Emerald drops, a diamond brooch, and 2 bracelets passed discreetly through a trusted jeweler who knew when silence was worth more than gems. With that money, she began where her father had once taught her fortunes were truly made, in movement, goods, and timing. Through careful agents, she purchased shares in wool shipments heading north, then small positions in tea imports arriving